Welcome back to the Game 7 podcast. It has been a while. I'm Jefferson Penrod alongside my best friend, co-host, and now a married man, Jackson Jones.
What is up, guys? It has been a minute, especially for me and the boy right here. But there's a girl. Not that I'm pregnant. No, we are not. I just have a wife, and she's great. Shout out Kimberly.
That's part of the reason why we haven't recorded an episode in a long time. I mean, to go back a little bit, like school kind of got in the way for me, and then it was Christmas, and then Jackson was getting ready to get married, and then Jackson got married, and then by the time Jackson was done getting married and all that stuff, then I had like finals. But now we're back, and it's great to be back. It's great to be here talking sports. The other new thing that some of you may notice is you can see us now. We're now on YouTube as well, and on other podcast platforms you can see us, right? This isn't just audio only. So that's fun. That's new.
Yeah. I wonder, not that we have tons of people that listen to us, but the ones that do, if you didn't know what we look like, now you know.
Now you know.
You can see both of our, you get to decide beautiful or not faces.
I'm sure Kimberly would say that you have a beautiful face.
I hope. That's the hope.
And we've got some good things cooking with the pod and everything that we're doing. More on that a little bit later. But first, Jackson, let's talk about sports. Why don't we? And the first order of business is the NBA draft lottery. It just happened. It happened on Sunday. And as Utah Jazz fans, we were pretty excited about that.
We were. At least I'm not a Pacers fan. I mean, there's a lot of teams that didn't exactly have it go their way, but the Pacers are the first one that comes to mind. And then us and Washington being the first team to win the draft lottery with the worst record in the NBA since 2018.
Yeah, so we'll just read off. We'll just start. We'll kind of go down. We'll just start with the top 5. Washington, the Wizards get the first pick. The Jazz, let's go, get the second pick. Memphis with the third. The Chicago Bulls get the fourth. And the Clippers get the 5th pick because of the Ivica Zubac trade from Indiana. So Indiana does not get a first-round pick this year. And as you mentioned, Jackson, for me, Indiana kind of does seem to be the biggest loser. I mean, center play is something that they need, right? I think that was maybe one of their biggest missing pieces, especially after Miles Turner left to go to Milwaukee. But you would have really liked to have this first-round pick, especially when Zubac's future and how well he can play is maybe uncertain. We might have already seen his peak.
Well, and that's why it was confusing for me. That's why I had no idea why the deal even happened. If you wanted a big guy like Miles Turner, re-sign Miles Turner, not wait and then trade for a guy like Ivica Zubac. I think he's a great player. I don't know if he's worth a first round top 4 protected pick.
Mm-hmm.
I just think Indiana totally shot themselves in the foot. I mean, and it's kind of sad to see the downfall of Indiana, right? Having played in the NBA Finals, in the last NBA Finals.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it all started in Game 7. Heartbreaking moment. Talked about it on our Instagram. Tyrese Halliburton goes down with a torn Achilles, and he's been through a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not even just been the Pacers franchise and fan base. I mean, Halliburton, their main guy, has been through a lot. But the Clippers totally stole one from him there. I mean, that's just a absolute masterclass by, I don't know who the GM is, but he deserves to be there. That's all I got to say.
I mean, it was bad enough that the Pacers GM went to Twitter and said, listen, guys, I know this is not what we wanted, but we're going to move forward. And it was always just going to be a weird year for the Pacers. I mean, they were an NBA Finals team just last year. And so with Halliburton out, it was a year to kind of rebuild, reset, a gap year. And, I mean, they didn't play good, but they were also not trying to play good. It just happened that the ping pong balls didn't go their way.
And we've been there.
Yes,
as Jazz fans, we have been there.
Yeah. Although we weren't there this year. And let's, just for a minute, because I think a lot of our listeners, if most of them are from Utah, maybe like the Jazz. I hope you like the Jazz and weren't like Jackson a couple of years ago. But yeah, twist that. But the Jazz finally move up in the lottery for the first time in franchise history, and now are in a very good position with the moves that have happened over the last couple of years. The Jaren Jackson Jr. trade this last season that immediately comes to mind, but Lauri Markkanen, Walker Kessler's emergence, Keontae George's emergence. This looks like a very, very dangerous team that could compete in the West next year. And maybe I'm a little biased saying that as a Jazz fan, but to me, the team feels built to have a much, much better year than the Jazz have had in years past.
I definitely think they'll be competing for a playoff spot. I don't know if they'll be contending in the West, but I'm assuming that's what you more so have meant.
Yeah.
This Jazz team is constructed in a way to that they can control the paint, and that's something that I really, really like about the Jazz. And if there's anything that we needed help with, it's just going to be guard play, which might mean the second pick is going the way that it needs to.
Mm-hmm.
Not to foreshadow what we may or may not talk about, but the Jaren Jackson Jr. trade, I think, like you touched on it, I think is probably one of the bigger reasons that we're going to be able to, I shouldn't say we, I'm not on the team, but that the Jazz are going to be competing for a playoff spot. Bringing a guy like him to be on the other side of Walker Kessler, I mean, you can't say that's not the best defensive front court in the NBA.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I would agree. So again, maybe I am a little bit biased, but I would agree that, I mean, you have a former defensive player of the year and then another center who is on the rise towards that trajectory, right? And there's just, again, looking at the lottery, there's just so many interesting things. Memphis comes in at third. You know, does this mean that they're fully committing to the rebuild and they're going to trade away John Morant, or are they going to try and keep John Morant and retool around him? Chicago, who's perennially been in a rebuild, it seems like ever since Derrick Rose left the team, which anytime if you're on Instagram and it's always like, what are the worst you can say is no. No, the worst you can say is that Rose goes down. Oh, he looks hurt. But the Bulls, like you said, the Bulls have always been in a rebuild, and they might have they probably get a really, really good player in 4. So I think that top 4 specifically, Washington, especially with getting Anthony Davis and Trae Young and the young players they have, Utah, Memphis, Chicago, I think those top 4 teams are very, very interesting.
Well, and it almost looks like it's rigged. The top 4 teams really needed to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Until you look at Brooklyn and Sacramento at 6 and 7, when those are teams that need to be there as well.
Yeah.
But a team like Chicago, I mean, it's been a joke on social media that the Bulls are destined to be the 9 or 10 seed in the play-in every year. So when they moved up, I was very happy. And I mean, obviously, there's been brighter days in Memphis. Very sad news coming out of Memphis today with Brandon Clark passing away.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Memphis is on trajectory to do a lot of good things, and I think this number 3 pick will do a lot for them, especially if they can get a good package out of John Morant, which I think they still can.
Yeah. Just going off for these top 4, we thought it would be a really top-heavy with 3 players at the top of the draft. Now, recently, a 4th player has kind of been added to that top tier of players. What direction do you think that some of these teams in the top 4 might go with their picks?
Well, I think Washington's pretty squared away. I know we aren't hoping for that, but I do believe AJ Debance is going to be the number 1 overall pick. I just think that you'd be dumb not to. And it would be the most Washington Wizards thing ever to go ahead and not pick AJ Debance at number 1, but he's the best player in the draft. As for our Utah Jazz, I do think Darren Peterson is the best consolation prize, if you could even call it that. I think he fits into what the Jazz are doing more, having a guy that can score off the ball, especially when you have a guy like Keontae who turned into a flamethrower last year, and your front court's already set. I mean, you're really just adding depth. That's why I think the Jazz are in such a good spot. And then as for Memphis and Chicago, I personally like Caleb Wilson more than I like Cam Boozer. And I think it'd be fun to see Cam Boozer end up in a place where his dad already played. If it's not going to be Utah, I'd hope it's Chicago. So if I had to make any picks on if I was the GMs of these teams, I would say Debance, Peterson, Wilson, Boozer, top 4.
And it's interesting that when I first heard that Utah was getting the second pick, obviously I think AJ would also work very well in Utah, but looks like that's probably not going to be the case. Now, granted, if he's there at 2, I think the Jazz should take him.
If he's there at any point, I think anyone should take him.
With that being said, a lot has been said about maybe the Jazz should trade up, try and get AJ. I don't think that's really necessary. I think the team that the Jazz have built is in a good spot, and AJ could fill that role, and you just play a massive lineup with Keontae at the 1, AJ at the 2, Lowry at the 3, Jaren at the 4, and Walker Kessler at the 5, with Ace Bailey coming off the bench. That's just a massive lineup. But at the same time, I almost think that Darren, and here, again, maybe this was a little bit of my BYU fan bias. At the beginning, I wasn't really high on Darren Peterson. I was like, maybe we go Caleb Wilson. I just didn't really like it. But in the couple of days since we've heard the news, the idea of Darren Peterson on the Jazz has made more sense in my mind because of the need for guard play. It takes a little bit of pressure off of Keontae, and Darren isn't necessarily an undersized guard, right? I think that's some of the, Jazz fans have been wary of having an undersized backcourt since the Donovan Mitchell, Mike Conley days. That's not an undersized backcourt, and I think that would help the Jazz a lot.
Darren Peterson in college last year was one of the top defensive guards in college basketball. That really adds a lot to our defensive presence, and he adds a lot as a scorer. That was my main issue when we were talking about Darren Peterson. Can he score off the ball? Mm-hmm. Because Keontae is going to be the guy with the ball in his hands. Can he create shots for himself away when he's not the one touching the ball all the time? And I think he can. I don't know if he'll always be the off-ball guy, but I do think that he can create off the ball, and I think he'll fit in quite nicely. Now, to humor an Ace Bailey trade package for Washington, I just spoiled it saying what it was. I think it'd be Ace Bailey, mostly because if you have Ace Bailey and AJ Dybantsa, one of those two players is going to be stunted in their developmental growth, and it's obviously going to be Ace Bailey, just because Dybantsa is a Utah guy, and I think he's a more gifted scorer. Not to say that Ace isn't a good gifted scorer. I think if there were to be a deal to go down, I would want it to look something like this: Ace Bailey and a first-round pick and the second overall pick.
So a future first-round pick.
Yes. For Trey Johnson and the number 1 overall pick. The reason for that being Ace Bailey never wanted to be here in Utah. Trey Johnson allegedly. He never wanted to be here in Utah. Trey Johnson was the guy that I was hoping the Jazz would draft because allegedly Ace Bailey didn't want to play in Utah. And so you have pretty much a first-round pick swap from the last 2 years, this last draft and the upcoming draft, plus a first-round pick to sweeten the deal. Who says no?
Now, listen, I think I've seen a lot of people we want Ace Bailey and 4 future first-round picks. I don't think the Jazz in a million years would ever do that. That is very intriguing especially because Washington wanted Ace Bailey last year, and then we surprised and took Ace Bailey in that spot. Again, I've said the Jazz surprised and took Ace Bailey in that spot right before the Wizards pick. So that would be interesting. My concern is, and maybe this is just because of what happened last season, the second half of the season, Ace Bailey's development was really good. I think the first half of the season, he was still getting his feet under him. He had some injury issues, but the second half of the season, especially when Lowry was out, he became a very good staple in Will Hardy's offense. And I loved seeing his growth during that time. And it gave me a lot of hope that, maybe Ace won't be the number 1 guy, but he can still be a very, very good player.
Yeah, well, and to be honest, I don't want to do this deal. That's just, if I had to come up with one, that's the one that I thought of just because those are the two. Trey Johnson was the guy I wanted for the Jazz, and then Ace Bailey was the guy Washington wanted. So that's just what came off of the dome, just thinking about trades. But I am all in on Darren Peterson. I think that he's the guy.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Couple other notes from the lottery, like you mentioned, Brooklyn and Sacramento sliding to 6 and 7 respectively. Atlanta, who just was in the first round of the playoffs, getting the 8th pick. So
and put up a fight with the Eastern Conference Finals bound New York Knicks.
In all the games except for Game 6, they put up a fight.
In all of the games except for Game 6.
So that could be very intriguing, especially since the Trae Young trade, Atlanta wasn't really seen as a team that would be competing. Ended up getting the 6th seed and put up a good fight, except for in Game 6. Dallas goes to 9. Milwaukee goes to 10. Golden State at 11. There were a lot of conspiracies about what if Golden State jumped up. Oklahoma City goes to 12, which it was very stressful. I think that was I was so stressed that Oklahoma City was going to jump up higher than that.
I did one of those, the tankathon, the draft lottery simulation.
Mm-hmm.
First one I did, Jazz got number 1 overall pick. And I was like, that's great. That's awesome. Second one, Oklahoma City jumped up 12 spots, number 1 overall. And I was like, I hope this thing's wrong. I hope that it's wrong. And it was wrong. I would hope still that the Jazz got the number 1 overall pick. And hey, you know what? I'm going to say something really quick.
Okay.
We are guys when it comes to our team. I am going to apologize for that right now. If you're not a person that says we when you're talking about your sports team, I'm sorry. That's just, I'm going to try and not do it for the pod, but like it is something that I want to do regardless every single time.
It's just easier.
They're our guys. We live in Utah. This is our team. This is our team before it was Keontae George's team and Larry Markkanen's team. This is our team. Well, not for me,
but not for you. Not for you.
But for you.
I do have the thing of little me, 3-year-old me in a Jazz jersey. I think
specifically a Boozer jersey.
Yeah, I don't. Some of you may know this. My nickname growing up, because Carlos Boozer was my favorite player, is Jeffy Boozer. So, that's cool.
Anyway, sorry for interrupting.
No, you're good. I mean, I don't think Cam Boozer fits perfectly with the Jazz, but it would be kind of fun to get a Cam Boozer Jazz jersey, just as kind of a homage to Carlos Boozer being one of my favorite players as a kid. But anyways, just rounding out the lottery, Miami at 13 and Charlotte at 14. So Con Knippel, remember the Hornets jumped up last year, got Con Knippel, and then they were the bottom team in the lottery this year. He couldn't bring that same luck,
but Con Knippel, rock solid player as well.
Exactly. So I think Charlotte will be a very, very fun team going forward, but maybe they'll get a good player.
LaMelo Ball trade?
I don't know.
The
Jazz?
No.
Okay.
No, not the Jazz. Just
in general.
I'm not going to say that I have any inside scoop because I don't. But I think there's a lot of things that you could get for LaMelo. And to be honest, I've never really been a LaMelo fan.
Really?
I think that he is a great player, great scorer. But I also think the Ball family is kind of, I just feel like there's a kind of toxic something. I don't really know what just a toxicness about the Balls that I've never been a fan of.
I mean, it's
especially when he's running rampant through the streets of Charlotte.
That is the thing that if you haven't seen that on social media, that LaMelo Ball is a dangerous driver. Well, let's say, but I mean, I think the whole thing with the Ball family has calmed down. I think it was at its height when Lonzo got drafted number 2 by the Lakers. I think that's calmed down a little bit. It's not quite as big of a deal, but I don't know. I think LaMelo's always just been an interesting player because it kind of just seems like he plays like he doesn't care, but then he is actually super gifted and talented.
Right, he's the best of the Ball brothers for sure. Always has been. Like playing up to varsity, regardless of whether or not that was LeVar's doing when he was like an 8th grader.
Mm-hmm. I mean, but he could compete back in the day.
He dribbled circles around everybody.
I say this, my mom might be mom and dad might be the only one that get this reference, but if you watch tennis, there's a tennis player named Nick Kyrgios. He's incredibly talented, but I've talked with my uncles, and they're like, he probably could be the greatest player if he just played like he cared, because it always kind of seemed like he was distracted. And not to say that Nick Kyrgios isn't a good tennis player or that LaMelo Ball is not a good basketball player. it just kind of is that same vibe that LaMelo plays like he's just like, oh, I'm just, hanging out, playing basketball. But is a very talented basketball player.
Yeah. Not to say that there's going to be a trade happening. Do not take my word from that. Don't go on to Kalshi, Poly Market.
Well, don't go on that
Sportsbook.
Don't go on that anyway.
Don't go on to those anyway, but definitely don't put your money on it and say that I told you to do that, because I didn't.
In fact, you specifically said not to.
I did.
Good job. I think you're cleared of all liability there on that. Any last thoughts, Jackson, on the lottery? We'll talk more playoffs next week, but this is a bright hope, a bright spot of hope. I forgot how to say words. A bright spot of hope for us as Jazz fans that next year we're actually going to try and win basketball games, and it's the turning point of. It can be a turning point in our franchise. So, any last thoughts on the lottery?
No. I think that we really covered it. I do think that Cam Boozer is going to be one of those guys that, I was talking to one of my coworkers about this earlier today. A longtime fringe all-star, kind of like, I don't know if you've ever heard this name before, Carlos Boozer. I feel like it's just going to be very similar to him. If I had to pick one of the four to not pan out the way that we think, I'd pick Cam Boozer.
Cam Boozer is interesting because I think he might have the lowest ceiling out of all the players, but I also think he has the highest floor. I think he's just going to be a very solid NBA player. I wouldn't bank on him to be, my franchise savior, but if I was one piece away, he'd probably be that piece.
Yeah.
So, lots of interesting stuff. We'll talk more about the draft when it gets closer, but we'll go ahead and take a quick break. We'll head over to Future Us that will be recording this in a minute of explaining all that's new and all that's next with the Game 7 podcast. So we'll kick it over to us. After too long of a break, we're back.
And better than ever.
Here's what's new with us.
First, the Game 7 podcast is now on video. In addition to seeing us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, we're on YouTube. Go subscribe and make sure you're following us on Instagram at the Game 7 Podcast for all the content that will be there.
In addition to weekly episodes of the Game 7 Podcast, Crunch Time with Jeffy, aptly named, will be back with episodes twice a week. Follow along with all of that content at Crunch Time with Jeffy.
We also have a website. Find a link in our bio to see all the content there.
Including what we're calling the Replay Center. That's where you'll find articles we'll occasionally write about things that we don't necessarily cover in the podcasts.
We've also got more in the works, so stay tuned for that.
In short, it's good to be back.
Let's keep it that way.
Welcome back to the Game 7 podcast from that short break of us, and it was us previously. You're just getting us all the time today. We're nowhere near famous enough to have ads, but that's fine. We're just out here for the love of the game.
We are.
Well, we just talked about what might happen in the NBA draft, and so now we're going to pivot, no pun intended, to what happened in the NFL draft. But I think first, Jackson, you have some NFL business you want to take care of.
For those that know me, I'm a Seattle Seahawks fan. I'm going to go ahead and take my flowers here. My boys won the Super Bowl. Sam Darnold. No turnovers in the playoffs. I said at the beginning of the playoffs, wasn't on record, but I said as long as the Seahawks don't turn the ball over, they should win the Super Bowl. And they were the first team to ever win the Super Bowl without committing a turnover in the playoffs.
That's big. I mean, that is definitely probably the reason that they won.
My Sam Darnold Super Bowl jersey is coming in the mail today.
Oh, was it really?
It's in my mailbox.
Good job.
Yeah.
Which one? Oh, it's
with the Super Bowl patch. It was on sale.
They were blue.
Yep.
Nice. How much was it?
It was $100.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how much NFL jerseys typically are. But
me and my wife, we set aside a little tiny amount of money for each of us to spend on something that we want.
Do you mean like basic budgeting practices?
No, from like the like what we got from our wedding in terms of gifts and what we didn't spend.
I see.
Yeah. So,
and that was your pick?
It was one of them. I don't have to get really that deep into that, but yes, it was one of them.
Good job. I'm proud. Well,
go Seahawks.
I'm proud.
Aaron Rodgers point.
I'm proud of you.
Shout out Rodgers Realm.
Shout out Rodgers Realm. So NFL draft did just happen. Jackson, you've got a couple teams that you think drafted well and a couple teams that didn't draft well. You're our resident NFL expert between the two of us. So I'll let you kind of go, and then I'll just fill in if I agree or disagree with you.
Awesome.
Guess.
I appreciate that.
Of course.
Well, there's a lot of teams that I think drafted pretty well, and there's a lot of teams that I think could have done better. But these are just some that I would like to highlight. We're going to start first with our number one, you could say, winner of the draft. I don't really know if there's winners and losers because it's not really a thing. But they drafted well, the Cleveland Browns, which they don't win a lot of things. So we can call them a winner. Which is sad because my boy, wearing a Utes hat, you can't see it, Spencer Fano, number one pick out of their camp. The number 9 pick overall, 9th. Sounded like Jamal Charles announcing a draft pick there. The number 9 pick. I think he was the best tackle in the draft. I think that it wasn't really even particularly that close. But they also had a lot of different good picks. I think Casey Concepcion, the wide receiver out of Texas A&M, is a very, very talented wide receiver. And I also really like some of their late-round picks. You have Taylon Green as the first overall pick in the 6th round, quarterback from Arkansas. And Utah's very own Carson Ryan.
Don't you mean BYU's very own Carson Ryan?
The state of Utah.
Okay. We shared custody.
Yes. Well, Carson Ryan, if you're seeing this, you probably don't remember who I am. I sat next to you, 12th grade history class, Mr. Lund.
Oh.
Yeah, second half of the year. Came in wearing a UCLA shirt. I asked him, you like UCLA? And he said, you could say that. He went to play football at UCLA for a few years. And when I saw him, I was like, wow, this is the guy I sat next to in history class. You can look it up. American Fork High School is where he went to high school. He says it's from Orem, Utah, but American Fork High School is where he went to high school. That's where we went to high school. And then he transferred to Utah and then transferred to BYU. So I'd say Utah's very own.
The state of Utah.
The state of Utah's very own. And the University of Utah and the Brigham Young University Cougars.
As long as UCLA doesn't claim him, I think we're okay.
I agree. No, that's like a hop, skip, and a jump from UCLA. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just good late round picking from the Cleveland Browns there. Personal relationship that I have, not with Spencer Fano, with Carson Ryan. But I think that they had a very well drafted. I think they addressed a lot of needs that they needed there in Cleveland.
I would agree. I mean, Cleveland has seen better times, but I think they're hopefully on the positive end of the rebuild, right? We've seen how low they can go. I think they're on their way up, and I agree that they drafted very well. And it's not going to be, they're not going to be a playoff team this year by any means, but they're going in the right direction.
They have lots of pieces. And like you were saying, it's better to be at the bottom of the stairs looking up than at the top of the stairs looking down.
Did I say that?
No, but I said it. We're going to go to our first loser. Because like I said, there's not really losers. Arizona. I mean, I'm wearing a Serpientes jersey. Spent 2 years in Arizona serving a church mission. So I love Arizona. It breaks my heart to have them on a loser list.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, as good as Jeremiah Love is, because I do think he's really good,
mm-hmm.
is that the pick to make when you just signed Tyler Algier, who I think could produce similarly to Jeremiah Love, at least in this season, right? I think in the future, that's a future pick, especially when you're Arizona. You don't have to be winning right now, but that's the hard part. Are you going to be trying? Are you going to be shooting to win, or are you trying to lose again this next season? You're in the hardest division in football. You're probably going to be the only team in your division to not make the playoffs this next year. You have the best tight end in football. So it's just like it feels like Arizona's in between whether or not they want to be winning or not. I also feel like Carson Beck wasn't the move,
Mm-hmm.
but that's probably more of a personal thing. My NHL team is the Mammoth. Not big fans of Sid the Sloth. That's not his name. That's not his name. Is that his name? That's not.
So
his name.
it is, but I just didn't think that that's where you were going.
Is that his name?
Yes.
Sid the Sloth.
Yes.
Not big fans of him. And him and Carson Beck could be siblings. Real talk. Carson Beck throws a lot of interceptions, and to be completely honest, I don't know how much of an upgrade he is over Kyler Murray or Jacoby Brissett with how much NFL experience that they have. Not to say that he would be the day one starter, but it's either him or Jacoby Brissett. So
yeah, I mean, Sid the Sloth talk notwithstanding, I agree that Carson Beck, he did have a better year at Miami than he had in his last year at Georgia, but it seemed like he had all this potential, and ever since he starting at Georgia, he's just kind of been on a downward trajectory for the most part, generally with his development.
Well, and one of my huge problems with that as well is Arizona didn't address the offensive line until the 7th round.
Yeah.
Which was a big problem for Arizona last year. Part of the reason they went down to their 3rd string running back by like week 9. And part of the reason that Jacoby Brissett had 2 fumbles returned for touchdowns.
Yeah.
They might have been in the same game, and they might have been against the Seattle Seahawks. But I do know that. They have allowed so much pressure on their quarterbacks, and that's the reason Kyler Murray was somewhat successful, is he's a really good scrambler. He's gone. So
and Carson Beck is more of a pocket passing quarterback than a scrambling quarterback.
So I just feel like Arizona has been, and if you're going to draft a running back with your very first pick in the draft, you should have an offensive line, Las Vegas, to be able to support this run game that you're trying to create. Otherwise, it's going to be like Ashton Jeanty. Last year, Ashton Jeanty, best running back in the draft, goes to Las Vegas and he didn't produce the way that everyone thought that he would. And that's not because Ashton Jeanty's not the running back that we thought he was. It's because Las Vegas didn't protect him. Also, they didn't protect whoever they decided to put at quarterback, whether that be Geno Smith, Aiden O'Connell. But that's a separate issue.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. Arizona loser in the draft.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. So I agree with you. Again, Carson Beck, I just don't think really fits with what they're trying to do. And knowing that you're in a really tough division, especially currently, and that you're a couple years away, I would personally just try and gather pieces than try and make a move that might, that can help you win now, which I think Carson Beck, with his experience, it's less like taking a flyer. For example, we'll get there, but Ty Simpson is more of a developmental piece, right? Carson Beck is more of a quarterback with his experience that you would expect to start right now, which he may, but it's not that Arizona isn't really in a position to win now, which is why I think that makes that pick specifically confusing.
Yeah. Especially with the top defense in the NFL and a top 5 defense in the NFL and the Rams defense, which is very formidable. Plus, you have those offenses that are also very potent. It's not a good day to be an Arizona Cardinals fan. Next winner, quote unquote, the Dallas Cowboys. And I do not take a lot of joy in being happy about the Dallas Cowboys, but right off the bat, trading up for Caleb Downs, even if it was one spot, I think Caleb Downs might be the best all-around player that was in the draft.
And I was honestly surprised that he fell to 11.
I was too. And Dallas thought the same thing. If he's there, go get him, right? You didn't know if he was going to survive through that Miami pick. So you saw your guy and you went and got him. And I really think that was, I don't give Jerry Jones his flowers a lot, but he can build a stadium and he can trade up for Caleb Downs.
Well, he can kind of build a stadium. Faces the wrong way. But the stadium itself is nice.
The sun blinds their own players. But it's a very nice stadium. Not that I've ever been there. I've flown over it before. Malachi Lawrence from UCF. Another great pick. Pair that up with Quentin Williams. That's a very, very potent, especially on the edges. Because Quentin Williams can play either way. Very good rush defense. The Cowboys' defense was the issue last year. No one thought the Cowboys couldn't score. That was not the problem with the Cowboys. George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, Javonte Williams, that is a solid offensive core, offensive line, serviceable. serviceable. So that was the big thing that I really, really loved about Dallas. You had how many picks? 7 picks, and you picked defensive guys in 5 of them. And so I really thought Dallas did a really good job at addressing the defense and picking impact players on the defense, guys in positions that they need and guys that in positions that will make an impact regardless of whether or not they needed them.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Again, I'm not the biggest Jerry Jones guy, but again, I thought they did well. And especially the Caleb Downs pick. When he started, I mean, I'm sure they had the same thought that I had, that as the draft progressed and he started sliding, it was, hey, we want this guy. We need to do what it takes to go get him, because you're right. Miami might have traded with someone else, and they might have taken Caleb Downs. So it was an aggressive move, but I think it was the right move at the end of the day for Dallas.
If you'd like me to move on,
Yeah, go for it.
my next,
You're running the show here.
I'm not going to keep saying loser. You just know what I'm talking about. My next loser is the Los Angeles Rams, and it's for a very obvious reason. We touched on it. Ty Simpson. I don't hate the Ty Simpson pick. My big issue with what the Rams did here was picking him now. It's not like there's not going to be an absolutely loaded quarterback draft class next year, right? Because there is.
Yeah, for sure.
And the Rams were like one play away from winning the Super Bowl. And I'm not going to say, I shouldn't say winning the Super Bowl, because they still would have had to play the Patriots. But I'm quite confident in the fact that if the Rams played the Patriots, the Rams would have won. You just beat Seattle one time on one of those plays, because they had many chances.
They did.
I think they would have won the Super Bowl. And so I think drafting a quarterback of the future when you have an MVP winner, not candidate, MVP winner, Matthew Stafford, and the team that you had last season, you just traded for, totally spacing on his name now, the cornerback from the Chiefs. It'll come to me, or he'll look it up first. Just trade Trent McDuffie. There we go. Trading for him, making those are win now moves. Those aren't moves to wait for a guy like Ty Simpson to take over the reins. I think it's a waste of a draft pick right now.
And I think what makes it even worse is that it was the 13th overall pick, and that you traded up to get it, right?
Yeah.
If it's like a second round pick, third round pick, the deeper you go, the more I'm like, okay, that's a developmental thing. But to use a first round pick on a guy that ideally won't touch the field for like 3 or 4 more seasons.
You don't want him to.
No. I think that was the most, there was so much said about it on draft night. I think that was the most baffling move that a team could make. And then there was all this discussion about, is Sean McVay in on the pick, or because there's all these connections with, and I'm blanking on his name, the Rams GM and Ty Simpson. Les Snead, by the way. Les Snead, the Rams GM, who's good friends with Ty Simpson's dad. There's so much that goes into that. Just using a first-round pick on it seems like, a waste.
I agree. And then you only had 5 picks, and I don't want to say none of these guys are going to be game changers, because that is wrong to say. Jared Verse, no one thought he was going to be as game-changing as he was, right? Puka Nacua, same thing. The Rams have a knack for finding talent, but to have 5 picks, and in my opinion, take no really big names, feels like a swing and a miss from the Rams. I hope it is, personally.
As a Seahawks fan.
As a Seahawks fan. But they're one of my losers. Last winner, the New York Football Giants. I already think this team is really good. I think that they have most of the pieces to get to the playoffs. I think Jackson Dart, also a man of the state of Utah. We watched him play a couple times because he played against our high school.
And it was sad.
It never went well for us.
He was very good.
He was on the best team in Utah. That's not important. He is a great quarterback. 100%. No doubt about it. Cam Scattaboo. Didn't know how he was going to be in the NFL. He has shown he has that factor, the it factor, that you need to be a high-level NFL running back. Malik Neighbors. No one has any questions about Malik Neighbors other than will he be able to be the same after this ACL injury. I think we've gotten so good at fixing ACLs, there's not really going to be that much of a drop-off. But I think that's what I think about that. I think that the defense already, I mean, you did lose Dexter Lawrence, but you absolutely fleeced the Cincinnati Bengals for him. And you still have Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns, right? And Abdul Carter. Like this, they have all the pieces that I feel like they need. And to get a guy like John Harbaugh, who's been so successful, and have a draft like this, I don't know how to say his name, Miami offensive tackle, Francis Mauigoa?
Something like that.
I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Sorry, Francis, if you're listening. Stud. Probably a top 3 tackle in the draft, I would say. It's him, Fano, and Proctor from Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Arvell Reese. I love Arvell Reese. He's a game changer. Having him and Abdul Carter, oh my goodness, that's a good defense. And to just pick sleeper picks. I mean, I really, really love Colton Hood out of Tennessee. I wanted the Seahawks to draft him. I wanted because I wanted the Seahawks to draft a quarterback. I think we did.
You mean cornerback?
That's what I meant. Cornerback. A CB. Thank you. I think we drafted one. I remember. I think his name is like Bud something. But
Julian Neal and Andre Fuller and Michael Danzler. You got 3.
Bud Clark.
Oh, Bud Clark, the safety. Yeah,
he's a safety. Anyway, not talking about the Seahawks. I wanted them to draft D'Angelo Pons because I thought he was really good. Shout out the New York Jets. And if they didn't draft him, I wanted Colton Hood, and the Giants went ahead and got him. And I also might just because we're here in the beautiful city of Provo, Utah, but I do love Jack Kelly.
I agree. Jack Kelly, I mean, I say this as a BYU fan, is a very good player. And I think he also, not just because of like how good he is physically, but he's a very smart player. And I think that John Harbaugh knows how to coach people that understand the game of football really well. And so I think he'll definitely have a place in New York for sure.
So, yeah, I think this New York Giants defense is legit. I think the offense can compete. I think you should be looking out for the New York Football Giants next year. My very, very last and somewhat controversial pick as a loser of the NFL draft is the Las Vegas Raiders, which I don't know if people agree with me on this. Fernando Mendoza.
Someone who looks like me. As people have told me.
People have said,
I'll move
Mr.
the mic
Jefferson here.
I had people both tell me and my parents that I look like Fernando Mendoza.
Is he Mendoza maxing? We don't know. Is he the guy? Does he deserve to be the number 1 overall pick? I had a coworker today say, who is a worse number 1 overall pick, Cam Boozer or Fernando Mendoza? And the sad part about that is I think Fernando Mendoza doesn't belong in that conversation. I do like Fernando Mendoza. I think he's a locker room beast. He is going to be the reason that they win some games. But is he that much better than Kirk Cousins? Or should you have gone after a guy like Arvell Reese or David Bailey or Sonny Styles with that number 1 overall pick, or traded back? Because I feel like at least year 1, Kirk Cousins is a better version of Fernando Mendoza. Fernando Mendoza was on a team riddled with talent, that Indiana Hoosiers football team, with weapons everywhere. I don't know if he's really as good as he looked in college. I'm a little bit worried. I'm not going to say it's Jamarcus Russell, because that would be a little bit too soon to say that for both Raiders fans and for me as just a fan of football. But I do think I'm a little bit worried about it. Also, no linemen. I touched on it earlier. Ashton Genty having a somewhat disappointing rookie season on the Raiders is a byproduct of having a below average offensive line. And the Raiders did not address that at all, which also won't help Fernando Mendoza be the quarterback they want him to be.
It definitely was interesting. I mean, some of these picks, you get picking up 2 safeties, picking a running back in the 4th round. Like, there are just some picks that don't fully make sense to me. And granted, I'm not a big Raiders fan. I don't know the Raiders in and out. And even if I like Fernando Mendoza, I think the rest of the draft was less than ideal for the Raiders.
I love Fernando Mendoza. But when I say this, I'm talking to you, Raiders fans. I'm talking to you. First off, you need to be nice to my friend, personal friend, Clint Kubiak. He did a lot for my emotional well-being this last year. And it's not his fault when you guys go 5-12 this season, okay? Number 2, I believe that Fernando Mendoza could be something. And it's your job as a community to rally around him when he gets sacked 5 times a game. And let him know that even though he's only on LinkedIn, you love him. Thank you.
Shout out Jackson's neighbor Kyle, who's a Raiders fan.
Not just my neighbor, our friend.
Our friend.
He's our friend.
He's our friend.
And I'm saying that I'm talking to you, Kyle. Rally around Mendoza. Buy Raiders merchandise, even though this isn't like the MLB where it goes directly to the team. Be a fan. Support the Las Vegas Raiders and the A's. Be a fan.
Yeah, kind of tough for the city of Oakland that 2 of their teams both went to Vegas. Kind of sad. Especially the A's. I miss, because the Raiders have moved around a little bit, but I feel bad for the city of Oakland. So do it for the city of Oakland, Fernando.
Do it for the city of Oakland. Do it for the city of Los Angeles. What do you know about the Los Angeles Raiders?
They existed.
My wife's cousin, shout out Bridger, good guy, has a Los Angeles Raiders hat.
Oh.
That's how I knew we were going to be friends. He's a Patriots fan, though, but we're still tight.
Does a Los Angeles Raiders hat look much different than another Raiders hat?
It just says Los Angeles Raiders.
Oh, okay. That would make sense.
Be nice to Clint Kubiak. That's my PSA.
Perfect.
Those are my winners and losers.
Quote unquote. I think you hit the nail on the head. The only other team I'd throw out there as being a winner, you only picked 3. I think the New York Jets had a really good draft. David Bailey at 2, very good pick. If you go by ESPN had 5 positional needs, and they got someone that fits all 5. David Bailey, very good. Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon, a very good tight end. Omar Cooper and D'Angelo Pons especially in the 2nd round, a very good pick. Cade Klubnik is kind of random, but you never know where that might go. We thought he was going to win the Heisman last year. Don't go listen to our last season college football previews. We were so wrong about everything. But Cade Klubnik, New York Giant.
Jet.
Did I say Giant?
You did say Giant.
But we're out of practice.
This is another thing I'd say about Arizona. I would pick Klubnik over Carson Beck.
Really?
100%. 100%. I don't think Clemson's issues were Cade Klubnik.
That's also true. They definitely weren't.
Just like I don't think LSU's issues were Garrett Nussmeier. Not that he's going to be playing anytime soon because he's on the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, he might play
Justin Fields. Chicago Bears.
I forgot
Pittsburgh
about
Steelers.
Pittsburgh Steelers legend.
And New York Jet legend, Justin Fields.
I forgot about
and
that.
And Georgia football legend. Not Ohio State. Georgia. That's a deep cut. For the same reason that Joe Burrow is an Ohio State quarterback.
We need to take your mic away before you start getting people mad that you called Joe Burrow an Ohio State product.
OH.
Oh, no. Perfect. Well, any other NFL things you want to say besides gloating about the Seahawks?
I'm not going to gloat about the Seahawks. I will say I don't think Kenneth Walker being gone is going to affect us that much, especially to say a pick that I liked. I like Jadarian Price, Notre Dame. I do think it's crazy that Notre Dame had the 2 best running backs in this draft. That's insane. But go Hawks.
Well, that will do it for this episode of the Game 7 podcast, our first ever podcast on video. look at us go. Mom, we're on YouTube. Thanks so much for listening. Make sure to check out everything else that we've got going on. Follow us on social media at the Game 7 Pod to see what's happening. Watch clips from this and other things that we're putting out. But until then, we'll see you.
Peace.